Hey, what's going on, guys? Vega here from Serpent Special Forces. In this video, I want to share with you my experience mining with the RTX 3000 series, specifically the 3080. I've had the privilege of using the Founders Edition or testing the Founders Edition as well as the Gigabyte Eagle, and the Gigabyte Eagle has been very challenging. I did a past video where I said that the card is good for gaming but not for mining, and that still stems true, but there's a couple reasons why. Now, not only do I want to share my experience with these cards, I also want to kind of give you a list of recommendations or recommended GPUs if you are going to be doing 24/7 mining with these cards. As my previous video said, the Gigabyte Gaming or Gigabyte Eagle, both cards are good for gaming. That's what they're designed for. That's what the manufacturers intended them for. However, when it comes to memory intensive applications such as cryptocurrency mining, especially the most profitable one being Ethereum or the algo being Dagger or ETH hash, those memory intensive algos are really going to put a strain on GDDR6 or 6X, and we're seeing the limits of these GPUs in those applications. Maybe not so much in gaming because they're not as memory intensive, even though there are games out there that are memory intensive. These applications are really pushing the limits of these GPUs. So the Gigabyte Eagle card that I have here is very good, and Red Panda Mining has the Gigabyte Gaming OC, and he's having issues where these cards are thermal throttling. What I mean by that is, for example, before my live stream where I did a teardown of the Gigabyte Eagle, there was no thermal pads in the backside of the PCB behind the GDDR6X connecting to the backplate. And so you can see on screen in the upper left here, we were sitting anywhere between 70, what I saw was 70 to 74 mega hash. However, simply adding thermal pads to the back has netted a decent increase by around 10 to 14 mega hash, really depending on the temperatures. Now, the problem is in a computer case with, like the Corsair Obsidian 500D, which is kind of restricted as far as airflow, it could be a little bit better. I believe that if I, had moved the card to an open air bench or mining rig, that it would perform a lot better. As some people, like ChanCoin mentioned, that they moved their cards out to the garage and it's hashing just fine. Some people can hit 100 mega hash with a high memory overclock. But if you look in the screenshot here, my card is so thermally restricted memory-wise that I can only do plus 200 on the mem. I do minus 400 on the core, and you can slide that all the way to the left to like minus 502. But 65% power limit is really the sweet spot for my card. And every card might be different. You really want to tune based on what you see. And if you get hardware info, HWinfo, you're going to look for this performance limit section down here and performance limit thermal. If that is being hit and it says yes, you're going to see two things. Your fan is going to ramp all the way up to 100%, even though I have it set at 100% manually right now. You will see the fans ramp up. You will see it hit the thermal limit. And it's not because of your GPU. Your GPU die could be perfectly fine. It could only hit like a max of 52 or whatever. That's not the thermal limits it's hitting. The thermal limits it's hitting is because of GDDR6. And we're really stressing these memory models out, specifically GDDR6X. We saw this with 6, not the 6X. We saw this with 6 last gen, specifically in AMD 5000 series, the 5700, 5700 XT, where when we started pushing these cards in memory intensive applications, it really limited the hash rate. So now it's a little bit worse with the 3000 series, because everybody wants to get that 90 plus mega hash out of these cards, but not every AIB is designed that way. Now the cooler is beefy, but the heat is being output towards the back, and that is the problem. And the backplate can only absorb so much heat. Like right now, if I went to go touch the backplate, I would burn myself if I left my finger on there for too long. And before, because there was no thermal pads, it was cool to touch, a little bit warm, obviously, because it's a GPU, it's a component in which electricity flows through, so it was a little bit warm, but I could keep my hand on there no problem. Now I can't. The thermal pads are taking that heat, putting it to the backplate, and the backplate can only absorb so much, and the fans in my case can only flow so much. And I don't want it to be annoyingly loud, even though I have good Noctua fans. I keep it at a certain level. So the sweet spot for me may be different for you. You're going to have to tune your GPU if you are hitting thermal limits. And you can also check to see if you're hitting thermal limits not only by that section of hardware info, but checking the GPU power. Many people reported that it can't pass 200 watts in power draw, when the Founders Edition, or at least the one that I had, was anywhere from 250 to 280, sometimes 220 when it did thermal throttle, because even the Founders Edition, when pushing those memory modules too hard, did thermal throttle, and it would drop me down to about 92, 91 mega hash. At least now I can get back up to 88 just by adding thermal pads to the back of my GPU. However, I kind of want to have your input. Red Panda Mining has the Gigabyte Gaming, which is this one right here. And he says there's no thermal pads and it is thermal throttling. He's having issues. He's going to have a video in the future. So if you haven't checked him out, which I'm sure many of you in the mining community have heard of Red Panda Mining, go ahead and check him out. Keep an eye on his channel for any updates regarding that. Another one is Nemesis, Crypto and Hot Rods. He has two cards. He has a 3090 XC3, and I can't remember if it's the Ultra or the Black. I'm pretty sure it's the Ultra, because I don't think the Black comes with a back plate. But the 4-to-Win 3-day he has doesn't thermal throttle, and it runs fine, but it's also like super thick. I mean, look how thick this cooler is. Super thick. Now, Gigabyte card is a thick cooler, but most of the heat being outputted or escaping through the backside of the PCB, we're not really drawing it into the actual cooler of the GPU. So if you want just straight up recommendations, here's what I would say. The Asus Strix, the Asus Tough, the EVGA 4-to-Win 3, the MSI Trio, and I believe somebody mentioned that the MSI Ventus ran really well for them, but I can't validate that. So the four cards, it's the Strix, the Asus Tough, the EVGA 4-to-Win 3, and the MSI Trio will be the cards that if you are looking for, 3000 series cards to just mine 24/7 with, those might be your better options to go for. If you get one of the other cards, it may be fine. You might be able to hit 100 mega hash. Like Not Your Normal Miner said that he's running pretty well with the Zotac card, which a lot of people look down on simply because of the whole MLCC SMD situation or conversation that happened there. But his card runs fine. Each card is different. Each card, even if it's from the same manufacturer, may perform a little bit different. It always comes down with the silicon lottery and a number of other variables that can make your card perform. But it comes down to you as a miner to fine tune your card to get that good hash to watt ratio. More importantly, I need your help. You in the community, I would like for you to do me a favor and notate a few things. Share your experience with your 3080, right? So we want to know your make and model, whether or not it has thermal pads in the backside of the PCB behind the memory modules, and whether or not you're thermal throttling. Okay, those are the three main important things. If you can put that in the comments down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. I want people to come to this video, look through the comments, and be like, okay, that's the card I want, or that's the card I'm shooting for. Because I know these cards are very hard to get, and everybody's fighting to get these cards. When they finally get it and it doesn't perform the way they want, they could have used this video to help them fine tune their search results, so to speak. And the fourth thing I want it to be is your hash rate, right? So the max that I can hit with thermal pads is 88 mega hash. With a moderate tune, and some other people can do 100 plus mega hash, but they have their memory overclocked to 1000 plus 1000 or whatever. Now Gamers Nexus did mention, and I had a conversation with somebody in the comments on the previous video, did mention, and Steve, thank you. I'm sorry if I'm using your video during my demonstration, but the Gigabyte Eagle performed better than the Founders Edition as far as thermals. It did better than the Founders Edition. However, the application they're using it for is for gaming and time spy and benchmarks such as that, gaming workloads, not so much memory intensive applications like we as miners are using. So while the Gigabyte Eagle is good for gaming, like I mentioned in my last video, it's not so much for mining, and you can make it better by simply adding thermal pads. And I believe you can do that with any of your cards if you add thermal pads. I really wish the manufacturers would start doing it for all their cards, especially since we're moving on to GDDR6 and 6X, and their flip chip design output most of the heat towards the back. We really need to have the manufacturers not only include thermal pads on all their GPUs, which I know it may cost them more in the manufacturing process, but as well, it would be nice to see some thermistors or some software readouts for the memory temperature. So AMD provides its memory temperatures, but Nvidia doesn't. And it would really be great if Nvidia and AIBs would do that. We don't want just the GPU temperature. We want to know the memory temperature. It'd be nice to know the VRM temperatures. I know not everybody's going to be like EVGA and put thermal sensors all throughout the card, but it would be nice if Nvidia and its AIBs would do it for the 3000 series moving forward, or maybe any future generations that they may have. But mostly this video is about asking you for your help to share your experience with your GPU when you're mining on a specifically Ethereum, a memory intensive application. Some algos are more core intensive, so that may not be, it may perform exceptionally well, but the most profitable one that everybody is focused on right now is Ethereum. How long that will last obviously depends, but that's neither here or there. Share your experience. Let us know if what make and model you got, whether or not it's thermal throttling, whether it has thermal pads on the backside of the PCB, and what's your hash rate, so that way people can look through the comments of this video and choose the card. But if you want my top 4, it would be the Asus Strix, Asus Tough, EVGA for the Win 3, and MSI Trio. Definitely check out Red Panda to see what his results are by adding thermal pads to the backside of his PCB. I'm thinking of also adding or replacing the thermal pads on the front side of the cooler, because you can see this cold plate is kind of screwed down and connected to the heat pipes. I wonder what that connectivity is between the cold plate and the heat pipe, if we can make it more efficient. I'm not sure. Also, there's a danger that it, when I try to take that off, will it rip out or damage the heat pipes? Not sure. But a very simple tweak that I can do is maybe grab some 2.5 millimeter thermal pads that have a higher watts per meter Kelvin thermal dissipation, and replace the thermal pads on that cold plate with something better. Because if we can draw most of that heat to the cooler, that's actually a pretty decent sized cooler. If we can grab some of that heat and bring it towards the front side, that may actually improve the hashing performance of this GPU. But that's another video for another time, because I do have a thermometer and some thermocouples on the way, where I would get some temperature readouts for the memory on the backside of the PCB, which will be, again, a future video. So stay tuned for that. Check out Red Panda Mining. Thank you for stopping by. Do me a favor, hit the like button on the way out, subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves.